Anyway, sorry. I promised myself I am not going on a tangent today. I am staying on track. We're almost to 100K. Keep tapping the screen. I appreciate it so much. Share the live. So I love Rick Wilson, right? Who's, one of the founders of the Lincoln Project. Gregory, mod for me, actually, and Fax. He works, I think, with Rick Wilson directly. He's amazing. And Katie Fang. Love Katie Fang, one of the most brilliant lawyers. DJ Bubbles, that was the nicest thing you ever said. Thank you for saying that. But I'll try to keep them to a minimum. They did a live together yesterday, which was fascinating. Or the day before. Yeah, the day before.
And look, there's an email in another group of emails that was from Wolf to Epstein on October 29th, 2016. And Rick, you and I both know we were in the throes on the eve of the presidential election. Subject, now could be the time. Importance level high. Quote, there's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Interested? ? Michael Wolff knew something and didn't say anything.
And that wasn't Michael Wolff being a journalist there.
No.
That was Michael Wolff being...
Way, just pointing out, I always love when I'm following a line of logic and then I find support. Look, a white man was that not the first thing I said yesterday? Michael Wolff someone check Michael Wolff's hard drive. I'm telling you, this man is not a journalist, or he keeps pretending he's a journalist, and instead of doing any journalism, he seems to be what I was trying to think of last night of how to describe what Michael Wolff seems to be a sympathetic to three PDOs and their cause or their plight, and seems to engage in crisis PR management for three PDOs. That seems to be literally what he is doing. And I'm only saying this because, I am not shocked. I mean, you have to be dumb as a doorknob, literally, to not already know who Trump was at this point. There's just too many data points, right? It's just, we already know the best explanation, the most likely explanation, the most accurate explanation is most likely the simplest, right? Occam's razor. But Michael Wolff, if you've watched him on these, he keeps showing up. So number one, I suspect him of being a malignant narcissist because he very clearly likes attention, and wants to be the quote unquote hero. He reminds me of a guy who used to do lives with Facts Still Matter and Matt and all the time, who has disappeared and was fired from his job at a large university in Florida, who it turns out was a scary predator. Just hypothetically, if that was something that recently happened. Anyways, that's what Michael Wolff reminds me of. You're like, oh, look at me, I'm an activist and I care. And behind closed doors, he is quite literally oh, hey, what my second job is, I help three PDOs do communications and PR strategy. Hey, Jen. Literally so suspect. I will never see Michael Wolff the same, up to something.
A player. And look, I like Michael. We get along, but I do think he's in a point right now where this is kind of like that Maggie Haberman vibe. Yeah, you knew all this stuff about Trump and you saved it for the book, is the criticism she gets every single day. Now, I can argue that north and south, but in this case, she had coverage about policy shit in the White House. This is coverage about whether the president is a pedophile. These are questions.
So do you bring Michael in? Do you bring him in then, Rick? If your House oversight, do you bring Michael Wolff in? And now do you ask him?
They're already talking about that. You know me. I follow if JB Raskin says a word, I have found it and I'm listening to it. They want to. The question is little Jamie Comer going to help them do it? Because the Republicans, the ones who keep saying they care about children, it's so weird. They don't seem to want to find any information about the child trafficking, and they're literally. I would say, I don't know. The only thing I agreed with the MAGA base about was the release of the Epstein files. Maybe there's, term limits. term limits for Congress folks, and stopping and banning stock trading in Congress. I think those are all of them. But one seems, one is, I feel like a no-brainer. We should not be covering up for 3 PDOs just because they have billions of dollars or because they're involved in the government or whatever it is. Like, that seems to be absolutely despicable. And yeah, thank you so much. I love a crown. That's awesome. But yeah, I heard Rick Wilson say this and I was like, thank you, because that was truly one of the most disturbing parts of this. Bruce Wayne's mother's here. Hello. Nice to see you. Okay. And then, if you don't know who Norm Eason is, get really used to hearing that name. Norm Eason is super brilliant. He runs like my favorite think tank in DC. What is it? Oh my God. Of course, now I can't remember what it is. Can someone look up the think tank that is run by Norm Eason and Noah Bookbinder? It's the think tank that got all the FOIA requests and exposed Pam Bondi being bribed by Trump about the Trump University scandal. Thank you for the turkey. Hopefully I inhaled some tryptophan. Wait. Norm Eason. Non-profit. Oh my God, this is going to drive. Not that one. Oh, he's on the board of a lot of. Never mind. God, he's on the board of a lot of non-profit. This is not the way. I'll remember in a second. It's like. Oh, it's going to drive me nuts because it's something I know really well. Anyways, Norm Eason, I just want you to recognize his name. This is one of the people that Trump took away their security clearance, right? And so he's brilliant. Always listen to Norm Eason. But this is him yesterday night.
A bit of a sneer there from AG Bondi. And of course, she was extremely combative in that hearing when the senators were trying to get at the truth. Luke, there are higher duties that an attorney general is supposed to have than defending whoever happens to be the president. And I think, again, it is part of the corruption of this administration that the president has installed those who were his personal lawyers, like Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, who conducted the Ghislaine Maxwell interview in the...
Don't forget John Sauer, the Solicitor General of the United States, was Trump's lawyer.
Positions of responsibility, and they have forgotten their duties to the Constitution, the oath they've sworn, to the American people, and to these victims. That is evidence of victimization. And again, if you go to the emails today, again, if they're true, they're Jeffrey Epstein's statement. He writes to the journalist Michael Wolff, of course he knew about the girls. And there's plenty of public record evidence of that too. Video of him nudging and winking at Jeffrey Epstein as they watch young women dancing. Trump saying publicly that Jeffrey Epstein likes women and on the younger side. So that ought to be shocking. To Mary's point, whatever his legal duties might have been, the character of someone who would be aware of this and behave as he did, that's not the character that you want for a president of the United States. Corruption. That's what it is. Plain a bit of a sneer.
That is quite literally the nicest way to say it. It's so funny. Who said that, by the way? Rebel Moon. Literally, it's true. I think this is like God's, if there was a God, but not the God of the Christian nationalists, because that God seems to be contradicting himself all the time. But literally, I think maybe these horrible scratchy voices are a punishment, like John Sauer's voice. It's like every day it's like RFK Jr. is the worst because he's probably the biggest traitor. And then John Sauer, it's like I can't even listen to oral arguments anymore. It's like, did you like cheese grade your throat before this started? Like, are you gonna make it through this? It's literally unlistenable. And there's no video. like for oral argument. So all you just hear is this like cheese grater voice. It's like, what did I do to deserve this? Or what did he do? Oh, I love Ted Lieu. Let's hear for Ted Lieu. I think is he the second in power in the House? He's either second or third. Second, third, or fourth. Catherine Clark is the whip. Ted Lieu, I think he's second. And then there's the other guy. There's a Hispanic man somewhere in the mix. Those are the top four with Hakeem Jeffries. But I love like Ted Lieu's lawyering skills. It's like I feel like whenever Ted Lieu goes on a news show to talk about something, you could just tell. I feel like he's pleading a case to like a jury. You know, he must have been a great lawyer.
Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released some emails and other transcripts and other documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. What do they tell you, if anything?
The newly disclosed emails today are highly disturbing. They show that Donald Trump knew about Jeffrey Epstein's pedophilia ring and that Donald Trump spent hours with an underage victim. More emails are being released, and today, the 218th signature on the discharge petition was signed by Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva. So now it's going to force a floor vote on the House of Representatives to release the Epstein files. The Department of Justice better get their act together and release the Epstein files and stop this cover-up.
And when the White House says, as it did today, Congressman, that these were released by Democrats to distract from the end of the government shutdown and prove nothing, and that the president, when he knew Jeffrey Epstein, kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago and did nothing wrong, you say what?
The White House has not contradicted any of these highly disturbing emails. And oh, by the way, Republicans also just released emails as well. And so Republicans are seeing the writing on the wall. They know this is a massive cover-up of rape of young children. This should be a bipartisan issue, and the Department of Justice needs to stop kissing the ass of Ghislaine Maxwell and of covering up the Epstein.
Democrats on the House Oversight.
In case you want to know why I love Ted Lieu, I mean, I could show countless clips, but I just texted my favorite. Let me remind you, this is when the moment I was like, and Ted Lieu is forever, by God, forever. I will never forget the service he has done for the American people. This is a clip of the first time the House, wait, was it Oversight or Judiciary? I think it was Oversight. It's finally started talking about the Epstein files and Trump's lies. And this is what I knew. Ted Lieu is whatever he's up to bat, he's going to hit a home run.
Thank you, Director Patel, for being here today. The FBI searched Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan residence, correct?
I believe that happened in 2018. I think there was 2 locations, sir.
It's 2019, and in that residence, the FBI found a safe, correct?
Remember this when Kash Patel was under oath and literally knew not one fact about a single case? You are the director of the FBI, and I'm only saying that because the last director of the FBI was Christopher Wray, another Republican who I'm not that particularly fond of. But let me tell you something. I watched 6-hour hearings of Christopher Wray with total recall. You know, and if not, he had notes and would flip a couple pages and be like, yes, that was this case. This is when that happened. The outcome, you know, that's still going through the courts. Like, we're waiting for the outcome. Literally, Kash Patel would be like, oh, we're waiting for that to be adjudicated. They'd be like, it was adjudicated and done 3 years ago. He had not one memory of a single thing that the FBI has worked on or done.
I don't have the catalog of evidence in front of me.
In that residence, the FBI found a safe, correct?
I'll accept your representation.
Okay. And in that safe, the FBI found topless and lewd photographs of girls, correct?
Again, sir, I'll accept your representation.
You don't remember this clip? We need to tap the screen, and everyone is going to be buying a pressure washer on TikTok Shop. We are all just looking for the pressure washers on TikTok Shop that we will be buying soon. Let's tap the screen and let's keep discussing the pressure washers we are all going to buy on TikTok Shop.
I don't know.
Thank you. It was all over the media at the time. There's a New York Times article that says Jeffrey Epstein is indicted on sex charges as discovery of nude photos is disclosed, dated July 8th, 2019. And the Times reports a trove of lewd photographs of girls was discovered in a safe inside financier Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Author Michael Wolff has conducted numerous interviews of Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to play for you a video clip of what Michael Wolff said Epstein told him was in the safe and what he showed the author.
And think about this. Now what we know, think before you hear this, which is terrific. Now what we know about Michael Wolff, that he was doing some sort of like 3PTO crisis management for Jeffrey Epstein and knew about all this and seemingly was very close to it and fine with all of it, which someone needs to check Michael Wolff's hard drive. Now when you hear this, I think you're going to get the point of why I'm so concerned. Like, somebody needs to keep an eye on this man.
Was in this safe. So let's please play that
had
clip
been
now.
Elected. I was sitting talking to Epstein, and he said, "Wait a minute, I got to show you something." And then he went into his safe, and he came out with photographs. They were Polaroids, I think, and he kind of spread them out like playing cards, and it was Trump. I mean, I think there were a dozen of them, and it was Trump with girls of an uncertain age at Epstein's Palm Beach house, where all of the things that he would ultimately be accused of took place. And I remember very vividly 3 of them. There are 2 in which Trump is, the girls, topless girls, are sitting on Trump's lap. And then a 3rd in which he has a stain on the front of his pants, and the girls are kind of pointing at it, sort of bent over, laughing.
So Director Patel, I'm going to ask you a very broad and general question. As you know, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were friends. There are, of course, photos showing Donald Trump together with Epstein, correct?
I don't have the entirety of the photographs, but I think they've been photographed in public together.
All right. Are there any photos showing Donald Trump with girls of an uncertain age?
No,
How do you know that?
because that information would have been brought to light by multiple administrations and FBI investigators over the course of the last 20 years.
Well, you know what? That's just not true, because no one knew about the creepy birthday message that Donald Trump wrote to Jeffrey Epstein until the Wall Street Journal disclosed it, and then all of a sudden, the Epstein estate provides it to Congress.
Well,
So certainly, you weren't there at the search. You don't know what Epstein may or may not have done with those photographs even prior to the search. Maybe someone has it. Maybe the Epstein estate has it.
You raise a
Donald Trump is.
Okay, so truly, do you see now? Like, because I have a almost photographic memory. Think about that, though. Michael Wolff, you're just saying this stuff casually. I think that was on the Midas Touch Network. But you're saying that you were sitting with a man who orchestrated a 3PTO child trafficking ring, and he goes into a safe, pulls this stuff out, shows them to you, and you are like, you know what? Like, one day down the road, I'm going to make a lot of money putting this in a book. It never occurred to you to call local police, to be like, hey, I need to contact a lawyer and understand, like, what's best to do about this. Like, do you understand? And this was years ago. And that's, if you understand, like, and I should have brought this up back then when we were listening. I'm going to go back to the presentation. But when you heard people bringing up Maggie Haberman, if you don't know, I feel like at this point we all know who she is. Maggie Haberman is like the journalist that has had the most access to Trump. She works at the New York Times, and it's like she had all of this information about the coup, about the documents he took to Mar-a-Lago, and all of this stuff, and just sat on it until she wrote a book. And in that book, like, the DOJ and like everyone's like, what the? You knew about all of this and have just been hanging out? Like, what is wrong with you? And I feel like that, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. That is best case scenario with Michael Wolff. That is the best case scenario we can hope for, which I think is a little bit delusional at this point, is he, and I'm sure this will be his defense. Oh, it's just like Maggie Haberman. Like, she knew all this insider information about the fake electors and about, all of that. And she sat on it. And like, that's what I was doing. But unfortunately, in this case, we're talking about child trafficking. You were being showed child porn. And you just were like, yeah, that was a good afternoon. And you did not feel, yes, silence is absolutely, silence and compliance. I usually say complicity, but that rhymes. I like that better. Silence is, that's my point. Like, I will never look at Michael Wolff the same. And let's be clear, this man is absolutely, in my opinion, and I think anyone else whose brain works, he's trying to profit off this. And like, you don't get money for being part of a cover up. What year was it that Epstein was no longer with us? Like 2016 or 17 or 18? And these are years ago. Years and years and years. I mean, he has sat here for years chilling. Like, just being like, and if you've watched his appearances in the media, especially the last couple of years, he's like, oh yeah, I know all about this. Like, I know all of the truth, and like alludes to it all. Like, you are a creep, sir. And nobody should buy this man's book. We should collectively buy one copy so we can get all the information he puts in it. And then we need to probably just figure out like what to do with him, because Bannon has 15 hours of tapes on JE. I'm not sure what JE is. But again, I'm just saying there's a difference. Like, I could get it if it's like, okay, all this stuff was happening. Like, I'm a journalist. Like, I can't, whatever you want to say. I can't reveal my sources. I took journalism 101 at university. Never got past that because I was like, oh, too many rules. The ethics of journalism is very clear. And I think Michael Wolff is in clear violation, in my opinion, of the ethics of journalism, unless it will come out that he told the FBI about all of this and they covered it up. But it seems like he was privy to a ton of information. Literally, someone's pulling out child porn pictures and you're like just looking at him and hanging out. I don't know how we get past that with him. He's a weirdo. Literally. Anyways, some of the Epstein survivors were on TV last night and giving very interesting interviews. I want to play a couple. This is Danielle Bensky. She was on with Aaron Burnett last night, who's one of the last competent people on CNN. Literally.
To release the Epstein survivor who is calling for the Trump administration to release the Epstein files. And I know you spoke out at the Capitol along with others about meeting Epstein in 2004. At that time, Danielle was 17 years old. She said she was recruited to give Epstein a massage at his townhouse on the Upper East Side. At the time, she was struggling. She was desperate to make ends meet. She was an aspiring ballerina. Her mother had just been diagnosed with a brain tumor. She was trying to save her mother, and Epstein told her, she says, that he would help her mom if she brought him more girls. And Danielle, I am grateful.
Promise to save someone's mom who had cancer. Like, I don't know what could possibly be more despicable than doing something like that to provide like hope. 2004. Yeah, think about 21 years ago, literally.
The opportunity to be with you again.
Thank you for having me again.
So I want to get your reaction to what we're finding today. This tiny percentage of the total, but nonetheless new and stunning new revelations that we are getting in these emails involving Jeffrey Epstein, where he describes Trump in one as the dog that hasn't barked, in an email to Ghislaine Maxwell, where they're referring.
I don't know if anyone cares about this, but yeehaw, thank you for the hat. I can't wait till I can finally become an NPC and I don't have to do any research. And you guys can just pay me to pop popcorn with my straightener and yeah, wait, what was I just going to say? It was important. This was super important. Oh, well, I'll remember in a second.
To apparently Virginia Giuffre and Trump spending hours together at Jeffrey Epstein's home. We know that about it. We don't know the full context beyond that. But what was your reaction when you saw that and some of these other emails today?
I think the emails really speak for themselves. You know, you read it and you have a very visceral reaction to them. But I do think they just speak for themselves. And I think survivors have been very clear and consistent about our messaging that anyone who performs harm or anybody that has done any wrongdoing or has harmed people should face accountability. They should be brought to justice. And I think that survivors are holding strong to that sentiment. And I think that the only way we're ever going to be able to do that is by releasing all of the files from the government.
Right, all of the files, see the names, and obviously to the extent that victims want their names out there, we know that there are hundreds of victims.
This is the best Chiron ever. I know how dirty Donald is the best. Thank you for the ghost. I love ghosts. This is the best Chiron CNN has ever had.
Victims' names in there. There are also many men in there who participated, who knew, and they should be held to account.
Absolutely.
So we are learning that there was a major pressure campaign by the White House today. Now, we know there had been one for months. Trump said that anybody who would vote to release the files for that transparency, it's a hostile act to this administration. But today they invited Congressman Lauren Boebert to the city.
Oh, there's probably some MAGA lurking in the shadows stewing. If anyone can explain to me why an innocent man who has never been involved in the trafficking of children in any way would threaten to punish anyone that tries to help the survivors of child trafficking get justice. Now, yeah, if anyone can form a cognizant line of logic of why that is not indicative of guilt, I am interested to hear you try.
Situation room, an unprecedented meeting. The Attorney General there, the Deputy Attorney General there, the head of the FBI is there to try to get her to pull her signature from the petition today that moves this to a full vote on the House floor. What does it say to you that something like this would happen in the White House, in the Situation Room?
It definitely feels frustrating, but I think with everything that came to light today, you know, we are starting to see more information. I feel like we're starting to iris in, and I do think that, you know, first of all, I want to say survivors and myself included are incredibly grateful to the Republican women, particularly Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and of course, even though he's not a woman, Thomas Massie. You know, I think you know, we see so much media attention on this because Epstein was such a political figure, or a figure.
Out front now,
The second part of this, I just want to say, like, and this is documentable, there have been millions of dollars spent by Republican MAGA super PACs to pay MAGA, you know, part of the MAGA cottage industry to harass Thomas Massie, to report his social media accounts, to get his accounts taken down, to make his life as difficult as possible. Like, I mean, and he has talked about that in the past, the millions of dollars that have been spent. Again, if I was a person who was 100% innocent and was not involved in this in any way, that's what I would do. I would stop children who were trafficked from getting justice. That makes sense. Again, MAGA, no one's requesting to explain to me how Trump's behavior is indicative of innocence. Can someone explain to me why every move that he has made proves he's innocent in this? Because that's what I do. When I'm 1,000% innocent and the only evidence available, because Epstein's who's suspiciously unalived under circumstances. And by the way, if you don't know this, I never know what people know or don't know. Just understand, we have already confirmed, right? And I mean the congressional subcommittee and the DOJ, that the video of Jeffrey Epstein's quote unquote unaliving when he was in prison, there's a minute missing from it. So, I mean, I've just Yeah, can everyone I would just like everyone to explain to me how what we know factually has happened that is indicative of this is how an innocent person behaves. Dolphin, thank you so much. You're the best mod. Thanks. I appreciate you managing this. Like, that's what I need. I need somebody to manage my life. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I got to switch. This is the second part. I just split it up into two pieces because it's so long.
There's been so much attention on our stories, but abuse happens all the time to women everywhere, and violence, happens consistently to women. So I think that there's just such a broader message that for those women, particularly Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, and Mace, I think they are really standing up for women everywhere, and they're saying they're throwing down the gauntlet of what is acceptable in society. So I just really appreciate it.
And they're doing it under incredible pressure, right? Hostile act, all of it.
Never listen. Oh, and I have so many problems with these bigots, but truly. Because if you would have told me when we heard yesterday unequivocally, and when I say unequivocally, let me just be clear. If CNN is reporting something like they were, and early on in the day, like at 8 a.m., they're like, we know that Trump has called Lauren Boebert. Then a couple hours later, it was Nancy Mace. And a couple hours later, he's calling Marjorie too. And we know that there is going to be a meeting later where Lauren Boebert is going to come to the White House and they're going to pressure her to take her name off this discharge petition. And the fact that, because literally I remember going to sleep last night and like, oh God, I'm going to wake up and one of them is going to have folded like a lawn chair. The fact that they haven't, I do respect. I mean, like that's all I'll say. But I think if you know about Lauren Boebert and her kind of not who she is in DC, but what's going on in her home life, I think Lauren Boebert has absolutely been the victim or a survivor of SA. Nancy Mace talks about it all the time. So I think that, like if this is the one thing, this is the line in the sand where you will stand up for something. I still have a problem with every other belief you hold, but okay. Like this could be a starting point where I can see you as a human being.
Absolutely.
I know that you and other survivors that you speak with talked to them, called their offices today in light of all this and this pressure campaign.
Yes.
Can you share anything about those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, basically we just call and leave as many messages as we can for them and just say, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. And I know that it's not easy to stand with survivors, but we appreciate it. And I know when you're in it, even just for some survivors, when you're in it, you feel like you're sort of in this little box and you don't really see the full gamut. And so I know so many people have reached out to me separately on media platforms and they have said, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Yeah. But it's tenfold for them because they're up against so much pressure. And I know it's so much harder for them to stand up for us. And so we just really appreciate what they're doing and hope that they will stay the course.
When Speaker Johnson said President Trump is for maximum transparency and he wants everything to come out, even though, of course, he said he's against the release of the files. Mm-hmm. Trump posted twice today that this is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Now, you've heard him say this many times.
Many times.
Okay? And every time he says it, I make the point I made tonight, right, about what rape of underage.
God, I was trying to stop that word from being. God, I was like, I know it's coming. Missed it. I need to learn how to bleep out words on clips. I still haven't learned that. You can put a sound over something. I need to learn how to do that in CapCut because truly, and you'll see why I'm saying that when we have to play Nancy Mace's 8-minute meltdown last night. But yeah, Toodle, I would love to hear. Toodle in the chat was just saying that he has talked to Sarah McBride and she has a lot of stories about Nancy Mace, which I believe Nancy Mace is the woman who literally organized a hate campaign and tried to get her thrown out of using the bathroom when, yeehaw, thank you for the hat, when literally every congressperson has their own bathroom in their office. That's what I keep saying to people. MAGA, you probably logistically, if I had to guess how many of you, and I mean the hardcore bigots of you, there's probably let's say 22% of the country, you guys are hardcore bigots, you're going to need to use the bathroom at your house. That's the solution. You need, yeehaw, thank you for the hat. You need to go to the bathroom at home. I don't want to be in a bathroom with you either. You guys need to use the bathroom right before you leave the house and then use the bathroom when you get home. That's the solution. Stop going in public restrooms. Nobody wants to be in public restrooms, weirdos. Hold your breath, pee for 15 seconds, and run back out like the rest of us. I have never made eye contact or looked at a person in a public restroom in my life. And if you are doing that, if you are like Nancy Mace, the creepy bathroom monitor, I'm more scared of you. Get out of the bathroom. Why are you in the GD bathroom? It's super creepy. Hold your breath, keep your eyes down, go to the bathroom, walk back out. If you are doing anything else, we should call the police on you. Like that's, why are you in so many bathrooms? It's super weird.
Girls is, right? Yeah. Not a hoax. But he keeps using that word. I am curious as to whether you feel anything at this point every time that the President of the United States uses that word to describe the abuse that you endured.
I mean, it's a little degrading for sure. You know, we're real people. And at this point, I just don't know what more you need to show that it is not a hoax. You've had, you know, there are 1,000 victims. We know this. I know personally 20 survivors that are out there doing media. You've heard from a lot of us today. And so it's like we've all told.
No, I'll talk about that. Do I wash my hands? It depends on the bathroom. It depends on how many things I have to touch. I am not a germaphobe. I'm really not. I'm not some OCD person. But if I believe I'm going to get dirtier and there's no paper towels with which I can then open the door back up and I have to touch the door handle anyways, it might be a game time decision if I just run out and then immediately get some hand sanitizer or something. Yeah, it just depends on the bathroom. Like, have you ever been in the porta potties that have like sinks? Yeah, no, I'm not staying because I'm holding my breath. Like that's what you're missing. I'm not breathing because I don't want to smell the bathroom. So it depends on how much oxygen I have and then how clean the bathroom is if I stay in there or if I just have to run out. But like, no, I am concerned. I do wash my hands a lot, but it depends on the bathroom if I'm going to stay in there. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I'm so confused, but I do get it now. When like that comment I put, that's true, you know, because there are some things that go on in bathrooms. That's where repressed homosexual men, signal each other for hookups, which is so, I mean, and I'll say this, if you guys have never been, like, if you think women's bathrooms are gross, go in a men's bathroom. I don't know how anybody is hooking up in a bathroom. They must be able to, they're like divers who can hold their breath for 4 minutes. I have no idea how any of that is occurring. My only goal is to get back out of the bathroom with touching as few things as possible and breathing as little as possible. You know, it's like every time I run out, I'm like, made it.
Our stories on a variety of platforms, and we didn't know each other going into any of this, and yet our stories are consistent and very similar in a lot of regards. So, and you know, we didn't know that until finally we got together, and it's like, wow, I'm not alone in this. So when you see like the sheer volume of survivors, and on top of Virginia's book, on top of emails, on top of all of these sort of, I mean, the testimonies that were given, Guylain's hearing where survivors were being asked to be cross-examined on like literally things that should not, like the definition of breast versus chest. Like it is, we've been under a microscope, to such a degree that to now call it a hoax at this point, still after all of this, I just don't know what else he needs or what else the public needs to understand that this is real.
Well, I think people know it's real.
Yeah, and that's literally still, thank you. I love gum. I just can't chew it during these lives. Yeah, think about that though. I mean, I would say of all the very unintelligent men who can't read and do math and on their like breaks from whatever they do for a job. They like show up on this in the chat in this live, and they're like, the Epstein hoax. You are shaming children who were trafficked. It is the ultimate. I don't know what I literally don't know. The next worst thing you all do is when children are pew-pewed down in schools and you gaslight the survivors, the parents of those children who are begging for help, begging for policy changes, and you gaslight them and say, oh, sometimes we're going to have to lose some kids in the name of the Second Amendment. But then Charlie Kirk was lost in the name of the Second Amendment, and you guys care about that. I will never understand how your guys' weird brains work. It's unforgivable. But I can't imagine being one of these children who was trafficked by terrifyingly rich and powerful men, finally get a chance to speak their truth, and then a bunch of weirdos who are in cognitive dissonance shame them after saying, literally, the only thing we care about is releasing the Epstein files so we can expose all the 3 PDOs, which you guys believed were people on the left. And here's the thing. I'll say this again. I've always suspected Bill Clinton was a creep. This is my opinion. When and if it comes out that Bill Clinton is a creep, I will say, I knew it. I knew it the entire time. So I'm not to say this type of behavior transcends political parties, but I do think there's a large concentration of these people on the right, because what happens on the left, if in fact you are exposed for, doing unspeakable things like abusing children, you have to take accountability, and then you got to leave. And when I say leave, where do you think these people go? They go to the right and say, I was railroaded. The liberals canceled me. You are the harbor and safe space for creeps. That's what you guys do. You take in the creepy stragglers that we eject from the left. That's who you are. That's what people know. Oh, I got canceled on the left. The right will accept any level of creepiness. So I'll be okay over here just because I heard a few kids. They love it over there on the right. That's who you guys are. You're the safe place for, Russell Brand is, you guys are the safe place for creeps. And so that's the thing. And people are always like, what about Bill Clinton? Well, great. I can't wait till we find out the truth so that I can move him on over to the right, where you guys will then embrace him. When he's like, the left canceled me, and you guys will be like, isn't Bill Clinton a great guy? The right is the last stop of creepies. That's what you guys do. They're like, oh, you refuse to take accountability, so you got canceled. And that's what I keep telling people. If you've hurt children, that's a different degree. But there's a lot of situations where it's like, hey, accountability will set you free. You just have to learn to take accountability, which is a very powerful, freeing thing, right? So, yeah, all these people, whoever they are, I'm sure you guys they'll all have MAGA podcasts soon. And, you guys will be like, yeah, just because you did a little child trafficking, that's so rude of the left to cancel you. That's who you people are. That's what you guys do. You literally harbor creeps. It's like your thing. It's your personality at this point. Oh, and let's look at math, because MAGA, here's some math about whether or not you guys continuing to say that this is a hoax is helping you with American people who can follow lines of logic. Oh, wait. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry. I didn't refresh my email. Joe B1, love you so much. Thank you so much for the $50. Hey, everyone, if you can give Felice a couple bucks so she can get a new computer, please do. She really deserves it. She spends so much time. You're going to make me cry. She spends so much time keeping us informed. Please show your appreciation. That is the nicest thing. Jennifer, whatever, I love you. Thank goodness for the victims. Oh, great point, too. I was going to make this point. Oh, my God. I feel bad. I forgot. Jennifer, great point. Thank goodness the victims are mostly white. Have you guys thought about this? Exactly. Think about this. If all these victims were undocumented brown people, or they were, black, do you think I mean, it would be going a lot worse for them. That is a great point. We'd never have seen / heard any of this. Exactly. That is the best point. If these were undocumented brown people, they'd be like, they shouldn't have been brought here as babies, even though they had no choice, so they deserved it. That's literally, and Mega, I want you to understand, that's not my lack of empathy. That is the line of logic you follow every day. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about a woman who had called the police. She was being physically and essayed, and called the police for help. And she was roughed up and is being deported. And the response to that was, she shouldn't be here anyways, even though I shouldn't be here, and this isn't my land either. She deserved it because she shouldn't be here. Because that's what Jesus taught you guys in the New Testament, is claim a patch of land that does not belong to you and then justify the rape and assault of innocent women. That's what Jesus directed you to do in the New Testament. That's exactly what it was.
When you talk to you hear from the victims, it is very clear what they want. They've made that clear again and again. What does the American public think about how Donald Trump has been handling the Epstein files compared to all the other issues that he brought up during the campaign?
Yeah, Donald Trump is underwater on basically every single issue he ran on in 2024. But the Epstein files, the Epstein case, are especially dreadful for him. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look at Trump's net approval rating on the issue. Look, they're all in red. They're all in the negative territory. But on immigration, he's 5 points underwater. Foreign policy, 8 points. Trade and tariffs, he's 17 points. The economy, 18 points. But look at the Epstein case. He is 39 points below water on the Epstein case. His net approval is 39 points in the negative. My goodness gracious. What Donald Trump...
Literally, can everyone see this? Immigration, 5 points underwater. Foreign policy, 8 points. He should be 50 points underwater on foreign policy, but MAGA doesn't know anything about foreign policy or what is normal, so they think that it's going well. I actually think the 8 points underwater of foreign policy is just further proof that MAGA can't read, and also does not understand, what does good foreign policy look like? They're like, yeah, starving thousands of people in Africa, that's a good idea. They don't know. Trade tariffs, negative 17 points. The economy, negative 18 points. That should be negative 90. And then the Epstein case, negative 39. Keep it up. You guys are nailing it. Trump is now the least liked president in history and the second least liked, representing his first and second terms.
It's been selling on the Epstein files, the Epstein case. The American people, simply put, have not been buying at all, Sarah Seidner.
All right, so is there any sign that things have gotten better, since there have been some things that have been released?
Yeah, okay.
Although released by Democrats.
There have been some things that have been released. Donald Trump has been trying to make some sort of case saying that, the folks don't necessarily care about it. But take a look here. Approve of the Trump admin on the Epstein case in early July, right when you had those DOJ droppings, right? It was 17%. Look at where we were by late September, the latest poll I can find it. 20%. We often talk about Donald Trump having this floor, right, of at about 40%. On this particular issue, he is less than half the level of the supposed floor. There is just nobody in the electorate who is buying this. They do not like the way that the Trump administration has been handling this case one iota.
Before he kind of pivots, or not pivots, but talks about something else, I wanted to say, because I did see, and sorry I didn't see who wrote it, but someone said, what is Trump's current approval rating? Which I was going to say 37%, which is the lowest in history, because that's what it was when they were like, Trump is officially less popular than his first term. But if you Google what is Trump's current approval rating, oh my God, all of these articles come up in the last 24 hours. Donald Trump's disapproval rating jumps to 58%. Trump hits lowest approval rating of second term in DDHQ at polling average. Donald Trump suffers big drop in net approval rating in new poll. Yeah, apparently within the last 24 hours, people hate Trump even more than the most hated president of all time. It's literally 58% of the country disapproves of his existence, which I think 58% of the country's brain works. That's probably, what I mean. And then the stragglers will come in, and then it will narrow down. There's probably, like, nearest I could tell, like 22 to 26% of the country who are either in cognitive dissonance or are idiots or are profiting off of the MAGA cottage industry or like the grifting, or a combination of all three of those. So yeah, I assume this will be whittled down even further as we continue on. No, don't even get me started on the rest of the world. My favorite activity is using VPN to pretend I'm in Europe or pretend I'm in Australia so I could see. And Dr. Danny and I used to talk about this. Like, if I show you guys an article and I'm in my location, my VPN on the internet says I'm in the United States. Thank you for the guest. It literally will have different words than if I turn my VPN location to Australia. I look up the same article and it has different words that are being filtered or blocked in the United States. Or same thing with Europe, same thing with the rest of the world. It's fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating to do if you've never tried it. And then you could find reality TV all over the world. It's interesting. Faith, thank you for the $25. You're doing amazing work. Never stop. I will not stop unless I accidentally get too depressed again and I have to take a little break. Becca, thank you for the $20. I love how thorough you are. Get that computer. I know. Trust me. It's for all of us. It's just keep looking up the truth. I will literally keep us all sane. I was never sane, but clinging to the last vestiges. Vestiges is a word that MAGA doesn't understand. You look it up. VESTIGES. That could be your word of the day, MAGA.
Republicans have generally said they like what Donald Trump is doing, generally speaking. How do they feel about the Epstein case?
Okay, so you see, approve of Trump on the Epstein case. This is overall, right? And you see 17%, you say 20%. That is way below the 40% floor that Donald Trump supposedly has. How does that possibly happen? It's because of Republicans. Because look at this number. Okay, Republicans who approve of Trump's job as president, 87%. That is basically in line with the long-term average, 85, 90, 95%. But look at the Trump admin's job on the Epstein case. Just 45% of Republicans, less than half of Republicans are even buying what the administration is telling. Look, we're not necessarily...
In my opinion, this is interesting, right? This shows the break in the cognitive dissonance, because that 87%, the way this Republican, we are literally in a point which when those 7 polls came out, just the legitimate ones that came out prior to the Tuesday elections on November 4th, and I was showing the shift of Republicans and how they were excuse me, that was wrong. Independents have left Trump. Literally, they're gone. We're all now in a giant group of people that disagree on everything, except for we have a grifting weirdo in the White House, and we need to stop him. That's seems to be the one through line. But independents are gone. They were prior to Tuesday's election. I mean, and at least we're getting to a place now where polling works, right? But yeah, so independents are gone. And instead of Trump being you know what, this is very ominous for me. This is why I continue to believe that Trump is planning in some way to fix elections. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't like to even talk about this stuff without proof. I mean, I'll talk about voter suppression, about, I can talk about, I can make a mathematical case just with voter suppression about how Kamala Harris lost the election. I could take you through a mathematical argument. It's too long and people didn't enjoy it the first time I did it. So I have learned to stop doing things like that. But the truly interesting part, was it Eric Swalwell? It was possibly Eric Swalwell, but don't quote me on that. Who people are now if you don't know, which probably you do or don't, Dominion voting machines, which are used all over the United States. After they won that huge judgment against Trump, they sold Dominion to a psycho Trump lover. And there's this huge pressure and campaign to get individual states to reject the use of, because there's other companies, right? There's Smartmatic, there's other companies with voting machines. But I mean, it's similar in my mind when I try to draw a line of logic or comparison to it. It's like the same thing with when Elon Musk bought Twitter, right? Look what he's done with that. And this is similar. So if you buy all this proprietary information for like 10 times what it's worth, then now you know the secrets in the sauce, you know how to control it, you know what to look for. I mean, that's essentially what has happened. They have bought the algorithms for Dominion voting machines, which I mean, even if we get rid of those voting machines, I mean, they definitely have now a lot of proprietary information about how voting machines work and how to manipulate them. So yeah, it's just, I mean, sorry, that's a very depressing thing to bring up right now, but it's something a lot of people are worried about, because I would say, and actually it'll just be, again, the Republicans telling on themselves. If for some reason the midterms don't echo, like, these are never before seen polling numbers, what happened on Tuesday in Mississippi and Georgia, in places that other people don't follow elections, like, there is definitely a loud drumbeat to give people back their health care and get rid of the creepy guy who says men shouldn't wear makeup but has makeup on every day. So if the midterms, seem to be disproportionately off from all of the math that's being done leading up to them, yeah, that would be concerning to me in a lot of ways. That's how I felt about the last Tuesday, November 4th elections. I was like, that's why when people started being like, oh, Mikey Sherrill won, I was like, yeah, if any of these people lose, it's almost mathematically impossible that any of them will lose. So if they do, in my mind, that's a red flag. But yeah, if you didn't know about the Dominion voting machine stuff, I'd just say look it up, because it's something interesting to know and to understand.
Sure whether or not this case has moved the ball on Trump's overall approval rating yet, but I can tell you that the more that this case is in the news, the worse it is for Donald Trump, because simply put, it is his worst issue by far.
We could be seeing a vote on this next week. This case is not going away anytime soon.
It is not going away anytime soon, and that is bad news politically for Donald John Trump.
When you
dare all these children trying to get justice for being trafficked, so rude of them to interrupt Donald Trump's grift fest in order to get justice for child trafficking victims. Yeah, Donald, oh my God, what is the video I saw? Like, what was, like, the Syrian president was in the White House like on Monday,